Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lockhart Radio Podcast. I am your host for today, hopefully for tomorrow, and every other time, Felicia Lockhart. I'm very happy to have each and every one of you here with us today, and we do have some wonderful guests. We have the lovely trustee Kiana Belcher and Brittany Norwood with us, and as you do know, we are also having Judge Joe Brown, who should be pulling in here really swiftly. So while he's on his way coming in, we're just going to talk to the ladies here and we're going to get some information from them about themselves. And we're just going to learn more about them, what got them into politics. First of all, ladies, I want to say thank you so very much for joining us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm loving the hair. I'm totally loving the do, Brittany. You look awesome. How are you ladies doing today?
Good.
You're muted.
No, can you hear us?
Now we can hear you. Yes. How are you both doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, we're good. I'm good.
You're good. Well, you guys have been in the news quite a bit lately. And as you've been in the news, something said, you know what? No one really knows much about these ladies themselves. First of all, I want you guys to go into it with me. How do you become a trustee? I mean, do you just set out to try to do better things for your community and then you just decide to run? I mean, what prompted each of you to even get into this position? And I'll let you answer on camera and remove myself. What made you do this?
So I've been a resident of the community for about the last 25 years now. And one day I live in a condo complex in the area, and a condo unit in the building caught fire. So when it caught fire, things went a little haywire. My son and I, we were trapped inside, and we had to wait for the fire department to come and save us. And then it was then that I realized that the resources in the community are very important. So I met the current mayor at the time, and from then on, I became really active in the community in terms of volunteering, learning more about the community itself in regards to what they were doing at the moment in regards to our government. So that's when I really started paying attention to government in our town. We can't hear you.
So that led you to be a little more civic minded, and you just really wanted to get involved from them. And that was an amazing situation that you had to go through. How long ago was that, you say?
Maybe about 7 years ago.
So your child obviously was much younger. I'm sure he did not know how to cope with all of that, and you had to just really put everything together.
Yes, I was actually in the midst of throwing him out the window. We stayed on the second floor. So because the smoke started filling up in the hallway, so we couldn't use the front door. So I was going to throw him off the balcony, and I was trying to push him out, but he was kind of strong. So as I was pushing him out, he was pushing back in, and I couldn't get him outside properly because I had some people at the bottom that were carrying, we had threw out our bedding, and they were holding it, so they were going to break his fall, but he didn't trust it too much. So we waited until by the time we went back and forth, the firefighters had made it, and they came with their ladder and they returned us to safety.
Very good. Well, that's good. I'm glad you're here. Amen. I'm glad you're here. And how about you, Miss Kiana? Because I want to talk to you about the penny candy. I done told you that already. So hey, go ahead.
I've actually been in Dalton for the last 20 years. I got involved in politics and the community roughly in about 2007. I did an internship at the Dolton Police Department. I was getting my bachelor's in criminal justice. And so I'm like, I live in the community. Let me see if I could do an internship at the police department. When I did that internship, I realized a lot of things that was going on. And most of them was political, how money was being spent, how people were being promoted. And it led me to start going to meetings every month, start asking questions, start FOIAing things. So when I went back to get my degree in political science, I wanted to see, because it was a couple of years later, and all this information that I had gathered and kind of suggestions that I was going back and forth with, I wanted to go back to see had any of it been implemented. And from there, I became vice president of NAACP, Far South Suburban Branch. I'm also a member of the Order of the Eastern Star, so definitely a lot of networking, and just continued to move forward and making sure that I did the best representation I could for the community.
That's very good. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. Now, I know that Brittany, you are a realtor.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about that.
So I've been a licensed realtor for the last 9 years. My 9-year anniversary was a few months ago.
Okay.
With my son being young, I was looking for something that I can do, a flexible career. And I decided real estate. I figured I'd show some homes and provide an income for my child at the same time because he was younger. And from there, I just really loved it. So I've been doing it ever since.
So are either of you young ladies married?
No.
You're not married. Okay, so gentlemen. The Yenta in me says, gentlemen. No, just joking. These are some nice young ladies who have it on the ball, if you ask me. And if I had sons that were available, I'd be like, gentlemen. So because you guys are really doing it. I mean, and that's an awesome thing to know. You know what I'm saying? You guys really are. Now, let me ask you something. How has the last 2 years for you been in your, and I don't want to say total personal life, but how has the past couple of years affected you guys? Because let me tell you, publicly, from what we all see, you ladies and the rest of the trustees have gone through a lot. You guys were on trustees at the same time when Tiffany Henyard was a trustee. Is that yes or no?
No.
You guys were not. So you guys came after she was elected mayor.
Correct.
Okay.
I actually ran with her. So I ran on her ticket.
Okay.
Trustee's Norwood ran on the opposite person's ticket, but ran on her ticket in 2021. So that would be considered my first elected term.
Now I do notice that here's what I noticed, because I have done a little digging, but one of the publicly known things was that at one time Holmes was running for mayor, and so was Mr. Brown. Is that correct?
Yes, Andrew Holmes actually was in the race for mayor when Tiffany ran. The current mayor ran. I don't like to give her a number.
Yeah, I know. Just say the current mayor. Because we all know why we're here. What brings us together? But I just found that curious. I found that really curious. I was like, wow. So he ran against you, and then I guess when he ran separately, people just said, okay, cool, let's just go with him. And then I also noticed Mr. Brown was running against her or somebody. They both ran for mayor, and I just found that unique.
Yeah, but I guess Brown ran prior to. So the current mayor was a trustee at the time, and she was running for re-election as her spot, and Stan Brown was running for mayor. So it was stagnating times, though.
I'm just going to state this, and you all don't have to give a comment on it. I'm going to state it because I know that a lot of people are thinking about this elephant in the room, and that is the mugshot that everybody saw publicly. And for me, this is for me. This isn't about these young ladies. This is me saying this. Okay, folks? So we all get it clear. I just can't see how any citizen would vote for someone who openly had an actual mugshot at the same time being a trustee, because the dates overlap one another. And though that's something that's the obvious. I've seen that. I read that. My assistant and I looked at that, and we found it very curious. But I want to ask you guys, are the people of Dolton like general Black communities, very trusting people, very down home, trusting, give the shirt off their back to people? Do they trust a lot? Is that part and parcel of why we're able to see so much going on in Dolton right now? Hello, Judge. How are you? It's good to see you.
How's everything?
Everything is everything. And there you are with your Judge Joe Brown barbecue in the background, your sauce. Yay. Not only does he have sauce, but he also has links and he also has all kinds of good stuff. If you guys go to the website, we're going to show the commercial here in a few minutes. And when we do, I want everybody to run immediately and get your barbecue sauce because it is grilling time. We have what's coming up? The 4th.
4th of July. And if you want to get it in time for the 4th, you can go to Amazon and they usually deliver in 2 days. And actually, there's no shipping if you have Amazon Prime. So Amazon, Judge Joe Brown barbecue products. And that's
there
Tiffany
you are.
Henyard. She did that commercial with me. So
Okay.
anyway, she's an investor in the operation.
Well, good. I need to go ahead and throw a few of my books in there.
There you go.
I was just about to say, we mentioned the real estate part, but I'm also a licensed insurance agent also. So in case anyone need life insurance.
Too late to worry about that. I'm old and decrepit, and,
No, you're not. No, you're not.
I
I don't believe that.
You still got it.
You still got it. See, we say you still got it. You got it. Judge Joe Brown, welcome, sir. We are asking questions just to generally get to know Trustee Kiana Belcher and then Trustee Brittany Norwood. If you'd like to have any questions or if you'd like to take off, go ahead and take off. Let me give everybody the opportunity to know what we're talking about with the barbecue sauce first, and then I'm gonna let it rip. I'm gonna let you go ahead and have it, Judge Joe Brown. So here we go, folks. Go ahead, sir.
So I can catch up with where you ladies are right now. So
okay, no worries at all. So before we go any further, it's about 12 minutes into the show, and I do want to let some of you folks know where you can find that delicious barbecue sauce. In tandem with that, don't forget, if you want it before the 4th of July, just as he stated a few minutes ago, all you've got to do is go to Amazon and get it in a couple of days. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. All right. I was trying to cheat and put some more shea butter on my lips. Anyway, there you go, folks. You know where to go to get it. And I'm going to play it again because as you guys already know over here, we play it at the end of almost every one of the videos that are produced here on Headlines with a Voice, the Lockhart Perspective, as well as TLP. Headlines with a Voice. So going ahead and continue, ladies, with telling me about, what started you to do what you're doing and how you guys got elected. So you ran on, what was your campaign? What were you running on, Brittany? When you ran, what was your statement of trust? What did you have to say? And what do you stand for now?
At the time, my whole goal was just to do the best thing for the community. That was pretty much it. I mean, I've learned that transparency and accountability and all of these things are very important. But stepping into it, I just thought that this would be the best way for me to help the community, which most of our residents are longtime residents. So most of the residents that still live here at this very moment, I graduated with a lot of their children from high school. So we deserve the best in this community. And that was my goal, to help however I could with that.
Very good. And how about you, Kiana Belcher?
We ran on accountability and transparency. And we ran on accountability and transparency because anybody that has their research will see that some of our previous mayors, let me say this, they get into the position and they become self-serving and not public servants. And our job is we take an oath to make sure that anything that we're accountable for, especially to the community, we should be doing. So there was an issue at the previous mayor that we seen some things that the community just wasn't happy with. And we made a decision to run. So we need more transparency. We need more accountability for some actions that had come about in the village of Dalton.
Okay, let me ask you this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. So you saw those things that happened in the village of Dolton, and because you found that there was no transparency, it made you want to run, and it made you it brought you to the place that you're at now. My question is, considering what you saw before, how do you feel now? Do you feel like you've bitten off more than you can chew?
I do not. And I would say this again, because I used to advocate all the time to say, ask questions, produce you can say anything, but if it's in black and white, there's, you got to have some receipts. That's why they always say you got to have some proof. And going into this, we thought we had somebody that was going to make a difference because she had a lot of support and a lot of people behind her. Although my degree is not in finance, most of my background is in finance. And Mr. House, Trustee House, is in finance. And then when Trustee Norwood as a realtor, so housing. So we have and then Tammy Brown, Trustee Tammy Brown, human resource. So we have a diverse background of specialties that, okay, even if she's the face, we would be able to support her to make the community a better place for what our goal was. And
now let me ask you, you guys have you've been suppressed as it relates to a lot of different things that's going on that you should be voting on. One of the things that I wanted to ask you was the public news article that just showed us about the pension fund for the firefighters. You all are let me ask you, how do you guys play a role in dealing with the placement of fire chiefs and things of that nature, promotions for police? Don't you guys have to vote on that type of stuff?
Yes.
And so as it relates to just what we just saw for this gentleman who came up and said, hey, we're asking questions, where is the pension? Is your pay structure and who pays you separate from who pays them? Or is it all lumped together? In other words, is their pension is different than if you have a retirement or a 401k, right? And pardon my ignorance on that. I'm just asking because I want to know how they were able to have monies taken away from them and not know it.
So let me correct it because I think a lot of people get confused.
And I'm glad
they're 457, which is not the pension. It's like a 401k or a savings. So this money is taken out of their checks bi-weekly to go to a company that in turns hold the money and draw interest. It's nothing that the village of Dalton actually matches or anything. It's their 457 where it's taken out of their check. So the concern is if it's taken out of their check and supposed to go to the company is called Nationwide to be held, withdraw interest or, as a savings, Nationwide is not getting it. And if they're not getting it, that means somebody is getting it or is being deposited into an account that it does not should be deposited into. So when they start receiving letters and start contacting, just in reference to hearing some, rumor bill that, the money is not going in, they start looking into it. Prior to it, we had already had issues about their contract because they're going into the 5th year without a contract.
How is that possible?
And this is even goes to sometimes, it does fall behind, but that should be something that's a priority that even when we vote on a budget yearly, those budgeted included the retro pay of monies that's owed to the departments. So if we vote on it And we expect that most of the time the contracts say maybe 90 to 4 months that the money should be paid out. And we see that the money is being spent on things that's not budgeted for. Then you're going to see that in some department, you're going to lose. So that became an issue. And when the new president, Adam, decided to go public, and his statement was, I am the chair of the fire department, and she tried to remove me from being the chair. But the communication is, these are our public servants. These are our firefighters. This is what, you call 911, sick, ambulance, they're coming. So when you start playing with their 457 money, when you start playing with, you still haven't did a contract, it's 5 years, you're playing with their livelihood. Then they're getting bills in the mail about our health insurance. Wives pregnant, and they're getting bills about health insurance, which is money that's taken out for their premiums that's not being paid. And nobody can give us an explanation of the finances of the village. We have not had a financial report since September of 2023.
That's what I was about to ask you. When is the last time you saw one? So you're coming up on a year without having seen a financial report.
That is correct.
One whole year.
That's correct.
Is the village broke?
I believe so. I'm going to say it. I believe so. And I believe that at that time, we were $7 million in a deficit. And of course, we do receive tax monies, but we can't even bring businesses into the community right now because all of the dysfunction that's going on. Nobody wants to bring a business into our community, which is a problem.
Judge, go ahead.
Ladies, what you need is an independent audit, and not just a computer audit, because there are hacks that can be put into a computerized system with programming fudges. You want a paper spreadsheet. There are professional auditing concerns. One that comes to mind, and I've used them personally in the past, they also audit for United Airlines and Delta and such like, and they're trusted by IRS. Deloitte and Touche, they're not as expensive as they might seem. And get an audit done to see where the money is going. And when you have this where the money is coming out of the fireman's checks, but it's not going to the company that is managing the pension fund, somebody is stealing, and that is a manifestation of a trend all across the country to use politics as a stepping stone to personal wealth. You see this when you hear that a national figure who's been making, say, $155,000 a year on a government salary is held in office for 6 years, but is worth $29-30 million. Somebody's being a crook. So when you see this kind of thing, it is interesting. You may find that there is some statute on the state level that requires that people file an accurate financial report and also a conflict of interest. That's usually through the statewide election commission or whatever stands in for that. Take a look at it and find out where the money is going and what people are claiming. And most importantly, go to a website and write this down. It's called followthemoney.org. Followthemoney.org. If you get the right thing, it will be sort of a maroon with a yellow banner on it. And what you want to do is input your state municipality, and you put in the people's names, and this concern just coordinates what people have reported as receiving and other people have reported as paying out. So you might find who's getting what from what major corporation, what major interest, what small interest. It will give you when they got it and how much they got. and what is the stated purpose. And it also will record what they've had to file as a payout, which they might not tell the taxpayers. So look at that, followthemoney.org, and you can look up your individual representatives for the most part and see what they've done as per their reports to the statewide election commission or whatever the reporting agency might be. That's a step so you can track it down. I've run into situations where I've consulted where computers have bogus programming in them and the hacks are not apparent and the money is not apparent, but doing an old-time paper spreadsheet shows that there are deficiencies. In one case, some people decided they were going to scapegoat the woman who was elected to manage such things, but she had been astute enough to have done a paper audit, and it showed the people who were accusing her as having been implicated in thieving between $28 and $30 million from the county government. So you can find out some interesting things.
Whoa, that's a lot of money. That is good to know. Thank you, Judge. I want to also ask you all now, what have you all done to try to prevent these things from happening? And will you run down a list of things that you've been shut out of? Because I know FOIA requests are not being honored as one point of what can't be seen. But what else have you all been shut out of?
So overall, we have a term that we use, and it's nobody is coming to save us, right? So I heard that you stated, and I know even the judge was saying the things that we could put in effect that should work. Our issue is that we have ordinances put in place. So every time there's, in the beginning, when we first come to the conclusion that there was mismanagement of money or the money wasn't being appropriated the right way, in the first few months in the beginning, we started going over our ordinances and making sure that we had ordinances put in place that would, for instance, we have an ordinance saying that the mayor, our mayor could only spend so much without the board approval. So at one point it was $1,500, and we put this in place so that anything over the $1,500 would mean that she would have to come to the board. Well, it was at that time that we realized that she wasn't following the ordinances. So we put it in place, but she wasn't following it. So then we said, well, okay, we come to the realization that a lot of things that we weren't approving as a board were being paid out. So we said, okay, we went to our attorneys and we said, what could we do to save us? Because a lot of money was being spent that wasn't budgeted for. So at that time, we went to court and the court decided to remove her. Well, first, we wanted to remove her off the bank account. In the beginning, that was a bit successful for maybe like a year or so. And at that time, that at least made it a little bit harder for them to spend the money, but they were still finding ways around it. And then we realized that we probably needed to remove her overall because she continued to spend money, even though we had these court rulings in place and we had all these ordinances, and she just wasn't working with us as a board. So we put a recall in effect, and we actually run the recall via the community. So we had enough residents that said, hey, you all are absolutely right. There's mismanagement. All of these things are going wrong. And if we didn't remove her at the moment, we felt as if we would be in a lot of trouble in terms of as a village. So we did win via the people, but there was a technicality, I guess, with the courts where they kind of overruled our recall. And here we are. Oh.
Let me ask you something. Does your state have a Freedom of Information Act?
Yes.
You ever thought of evoking that to find out what in the devil they're actually sitting on?
We have more than 20 something lawsuits because they refuse to provide any information. So people are suing us because they're not providing any information.
Even a news company is suing you guys, aren't they?
Even the news, WGN Channel 9 is suing us. It has been to the Attorney General's office. It's just something that it's sad. It's sad. It's embarrassing. But we just have someone that does not care about the laws and is getting away with it.
That's what I want to know. I want to ask, I just want to blatantly say, how is it? And if anybody in the chat knows, please let me know. How was this lady able to become the mayor if she was arrested for breaking into cars in Chicago? I mean, that was something that is blatant. It's something that was public. People in the chat, if you know the answer, let me know, because that was a clear and evident indication that this individual had the propensity to break laws with impunity. And I think that speaks volumes. If I'm in a community and I find that there's a person that's running for an office and they just got arrested for breaking into cars, then that tells me that there's something not right. And I don't know, you guys, Judge, I don't know.
Let me make a suggestion. I tuned in late. I know who you're talking about, but if anybody else did, they wouldn't know who you're talking about. So every now and then drop the name of the individual in question.
Well, I agree that, and we are talking, I said there's a lady that wants to know, who is protecting Tiffany. Let me just say this, and I appreciate you for being here, Melanated Beauty, but I'm going to address that. Here is the cold hard facts. The fact is that we do have this individual who is in office, and that is Ms. Tiffany Henyard. I don't know her personally. I would love the opportunity to speak with her and allow her to say what it is that she wants to say in all fairness. But what I will tell you is what I can see publicly is what I have to go by. And that's generally the only thing that we can protect is our public reputation and the things that we've done within our neighborhood, our community, for our jobs, for our family. Anything that's done publicly is the only thing that we have or others have to go by and base what they think about us on. So based on what I see, and nobody's ever said anything about it, I don't understand how we can vote somebody in. And by we, I mean the individuals there in that city or in that township or in that county or whatever it is. I don't know how they could vote her in after knowing, as a mayor, after knowing or after seeing that. Now, if it was fictitious and a lie, then somebody needs to come out with that and say, hey, what you all saw with that mugshot, that was not me. It was CGI, or it was a lie, or it never happened. The unfortunate piece is that it's backed up by websites that are tied to jails, a city jail, for example. So with that in mind, I just wonder, at what point in America are we going to get to the place, and this is a rhetorical question, but are we going to get to the place where when we see something out there like that in these streets and in the world, that we begin to believe it? That's the deal.
A clue. The culprits who really need to be turned out of office, they're always relying on, if they're male, it's white supremacy after me because I'm being an effective somebody black. And if it's a sister, they're dumping on me because I'm a black woman. And when you hear that language, you know something crooked is going on, because 9 times out of 10, the majority of the voters in the area are black. And most of the people that they have to deal with are black officials. So where is the white supremacy, and who are the folk dumping on the good sisters? So bottom line is that this needs to be exposed. You have to engage in a PR campaign. So you've got New York Times versus Sullivan, U.S. Supreme Court, 1962. It says that a public figure is basically wide open to political criticism. Get on it. Start getting the local media information and start making demands. Start introducing resolutions to require the mayor's office produce the documents in question. And by the way, you probably have a state agency that is frothing at the mouth to try to get at this. So evoke it.
I'm going to, here's what I'm going to do. I want you guys to take a look at this, because this is one of the, first of all, for the voters' appeal, there was a technicality that I don't think that you all, that your attorneys or whomever knew beforehand, but it was based on a precedent that was never set. First off, there was no precedent that showed that anybody other than perhaps a governor or whatnot would be able to be recalled. So she was able to stay based on that technicality that the attorneys took ahead. Let me read it to you, Judge. I will give you a little bit of it so that you will know where we are. Okay. So let's just see. Both the referenda were on the same ballot. So the referenda as well as the other portion were all on the same ballot. And accordingly, when the voters voted to recall Henyard on June 28, 2022, they were voting upon a nullity, because when they voted, they were, that dog sounds like my dog, and I thought it was my dog in the background. Totally threw me off. I'm sorry. That's one of y'all's babies.
That's mine.
That's your baby. Okay, because I was like, why am I distracted?
Wait, hold on.
Go ahead.
I can keep talking. I'll put
it
on mute.
Okay. So accordingly, when the voters voted to recall Henyard on June 28, 2022, they were voting upon a nullity, because when they voted, there was no approved procedure in place allowing any Dolton official to be recalled. The justices issued a permanent injunction forbidding the referendums from taking effect. Henyard has been represented in the case by the attorneys Scott B. Erdman of Chicago and Robert L. Winden of Winden Strategies of McHenry. What I will say is there has been a lot of boasting based on the fact that nobody could overthrow her. And I'm just gonna come out and say it because I can. I don't want you all to say it, but I'm gonna say it. There is a very strong and a concerted effort to keep this woman in position. What it is, I don't know, but I do know that if it was anybody else, if it was Keisha or Pookie Nim, okay, that didn't have the backing of somebody, they would have already been gone. And that's just me. I'm just saying that. If it was Keisha, if it was Keisha Nim, if it was Ray or Man, they would have already been gone. But for whatever reason, I've never seen anybody have such big sluggers in their corner. I mean, big cats. I mean, these cats got long running jobs as attorneys. Some of these cats. So go ahead.
I make a comment about that?
Yes.
The unfortunate part about this whole situation is that that what you read is correct, but there has been a trustee recalled in the state of Illinois before, and it didn't have to have a already in place to do it. So with that saying, the technicality, yes, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that because she holds the position as the township supervisor, which is the largest township in the state of Illinois, where all of the contracts are, where all of the money that runs through and resources that holds a lot of power in the state of Illinois. Her predecessor, which is Frank Zuccarelli, who passed away
suddenly.
Who passed away, had been in that seat for years, and he was the powerhouse of the South suburbs. So we're getting the spotlight because if she was just the mayor, she probably would have been out of that seat. But because she holds the position as the supervisor, has given her the ability to have a lot of heavy hitters behind her that impacts what's going on and who will put her out and who won't put her out.
I don't believe she's going anywhere.
Ladies, if I might make a suggestion as to what to look to, perhaps it's this. Usually when you see the kind of situation that you are confronting, there's money laundering going on and criminal enterprise. And if you look closely, start with that thing, followthemoney.org. It may give you a clue as to what's happening. Missy spends a lot of time on getting her weave together, it looks like, and her nails done, and sashaying around trying to be hot. But what you're describing is someone that is a conduit into misappropriating public funds. Not saying that she is, and if she does, that's a criminal act, and you're presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But the fact of the matter is it looks very suspicious, and somebody for the state of Illinois outside of the township ought to be looking into the matter, because there's likely to be something found. But Illinois is replete with all sorts of, shall we say, questionable activities where somebody gets back in, and all they're doing is under the table, over here, over there. So it does look highly suspicious. And what you have to do is execute a public relations campaign so people will understand what they're dealing with. There is an old political science thing that deals with propaganda. That one says tell a lie long enough and loud enough, and you can get anybody, including the liar, to believe it. Well, it works even more swiftly with the truth. So just keep putting it out, and you'll find that eventually, in just a very scant few weeks, people will start coming back with the phraseology of doubt and skepticism.
Very good. What we're going to look at right now and make a comment on, and I do want to ask you guys about this, but it's a public article, and I just want to go ahead and play it for you. I will start it from the beginning because it really took me aback. Something as small as giving mulch to a park was amazing. So let me go ahead and pull this all the way for you all.
There's new controversy growing in Dalton.
Park District members say they believe they are being targeted by Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Dane Placco has the story.
Just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier here in Dolton, the Park District says they're being politically targeted by Mayor Tiffany Henyard for, among other things, putting a new layer of mulch down on their playgrounds. What are you holding there?
I have 4 tickets issued from the village of Dalton, and each ticket is $500 a piece. That is $2,000 worth of tickets that I have here.
Dalton Park District President Cleo Jones says they were stunned last week when they received citations for doing work without a permit. 2 of those tickets were issued for spreading fresh mulch on playgrounds. The other 2 apparently for installing brand new playground equipment.
So every year we replenish the mulch in the park to ensure that the safety of the kids are playing on a safe surface by playing on some healthy mulch. And we do this every year.
Have they ever asked for a permit before?
Never.
Jones believes the Park District, a separate government entity, is being targeted by Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard because they've allowed the 4 Dalton trustees who oppose Henyard to use Park District property to hold community meetings after they were shut out of Village Hall.
We do not play the politics here, and don't put us in the middle of politics by issuing us these political citations.
But it's not just mulch. They say Henyard is holding up 2 major grants totaling $600,000 for park improvements. One from Blue Cross Blue Shield, the other from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, by refusing to issue the permits needed to proceed with the work.
We have gone to the village for permitting and they have been unresponsive. I have a project manager that is working on that and they just refuse to give us the permits.
Dalton Park District Director Stephanie Wiedemann says if they don't get those permits in the next few weeks, the $400,000 grant to rehab Blackstone Park will expire, and taxpayers will have to eat $150,000 in money that's already been spent for the park's design.
What resident wants to look outside of their house and see beat up stuff? If we can upgrade these things and you're preventing it with a permit, the residents are suffering. They don't get to look out their door and see nice things because you're stopping it.
And Wiedemann believes that she herself is also part of the reason the Park District is being targeted because she's been a frequent outspoken critic of the mayor's. We reached out to Henyard for a response to this story and have not yet heard back. In Dalton, Dane Placco, Fox 32, Chicago.
Well, what do you guys have about that? Because, what do you think about that?
She's got mental health issues, the mayor. She's a narcissist. She really does. The conduct I've been observing would suggest that you've got clinical neuroses involved in this, if not some active psychosis. I'm not a clinical psychologist, but Lord knows I've read enough reports over the years that I have ordered to be prepared on certain people I've sentenced. And what we have with your mayor, I mean, she's innocent until proven guilty, of course, beyond a reasonable doubt of any potential criminal activity, but it indicates strongly you've got a narcissist here who doesn't care about the rules, and she is somebody that in her background has felt, a background has caused her to feel that she's been set upon, and she's kind of getting her revenge upon the world, and she is taking as much money out of it because she does not understand cause and effect, and she's also a sociopath. So you've got a real, if this is true, these allegations or observations are accurate, you've got a real wacko here.
Well, so just
frankly, I've never seen, I've seen this before, but this is one of the worst examples. You've got to realize somebody is a psycho. She's got identifiable mental health issues here that need to be addressed, and she doesn't need to be your mayor.
I agree. She does not need to be the mayor. I do want to show you guys this clip right here so that way we can have this as information that we're going to talk about. And this answers the statement that you made. And I concur with the statement that you all made when you said, you know what, we don't have any help. We've gone as far as we can. I do know, and I want to ask you guys, well, let me ask you about that after. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to play this for us. Let me pull it up because what I want to discuss is here. To me, I just threw my hat. I couldn't believe this, but it is what it is. Let's go on ahead and see this. You have no help, and this is to your point.
What's going on in Dalton and Thornton Township and leadership there? Are you concerned? Taxpayers seem very worried. There's chaos at meetings. What can be done? Could you play a role in stepping in some way? What's your take on the situation?
So I've looked at that question, whether the state should and can play a role. The federal authorities, as you may know, are involved and investigating. I've read that. I think that's a public piece of information. There is an investigation that's been called for, and now I know there was a veto that was overridden that will now allow that investigation to go forward with former Mayor Lori Lightfoot in charge of that. I think that those are two pretty good authorities for looking into this, investigating it, and getting to the truth.
And the state, when you did look into it?
We'll support them. Well, we looked at whether we ought to put resources, whether it's state police and their anti-corruption efforts, or asking the Attorney General. The reality is that there are already two pretty significant investigations going on, and so we'll support them in every way that we can. But it's really just a matter of, do you want everybody running over each other in those investigations, or do you want two concerted efforts toward getting the facts?
A suggestion. You have a local grand jury, and grand juries usually deal with requests for indictments. And if they find there's probable cause, they will return a bill of indictment on behalf of the prosecutorial authority. I think Illinois is one of the states that also provides an alternative, which is an independent investigation by the grand jury toward returning what's known as a presentment, where the district attorney has no involvement. It's the foreman of the grand jury. Check your state laws. You may also find that the local grand jury is also charged with investigating, reporting, and looking into the finances of local governments. So that might be a way for you to get around a lot of the flack by going directly to a grand jury and asking them through the grand jury foreman to conduct an independent investigation where the prosecutorial officials aren't even involved unless they receive a request from the grand jury. That's not advice, that's a suggestion, and it depends on your law. I haven't looked at Illinois' law in a long time, so check that out. That's another avenue. There's going to be a paper trail of this because money comes in and somehow or another the money goes out. So there has to be disbursements that are recorded, checks that are recorded, online payments or whatever it may be. And if there are not, and the apparent income of the city is not matched by what's on account and what the payouts are, then somebody's in trouble. And usually you can find out who made the disbursement if you dig deep enough. Now, I would suggest that if there is a change in administration in Washington, which there likely is to be, Boogeyman Trump gets in there, that might change, because right now there is a disincentive to do anything about it, because at the moment you've got Letitia James, Fannie Willis, you've got your mayor, you've got a few other people, you've got a judge just got removed down in Georgia for criminal misconduct. Several around the country that have been out of hand that are in leadership or official positions. And it just does not look good for the party and power to have that associated with it. So there's a suppression going on when it comes to taking a close look at wrongdoing when it's on one side, unless it just gets so egregious that they have to say, hey, look, we don't support this. But those might be some avenues where you can get some official action without having to wait on the locals or the statewide level.
Now, Judge, I do know that they brought in Lori Lightfoot, right, ladies? And how is that progressing? And is she, I do know that Tiffany Henyard, who was the mayor, sort of kicked that to the side, and then it was overturned by the board. Tell us what the process was there, and is she still actively investigating on this matter, ladies?
You want to talk about former Mayor Lori Lightfoot was brought in. There were specific things, though, per the ordinance that we asked her to investigate. So because we know that it's so much that is going on, like you can't even put all of it in one. It's so much that was going on. There are specific things. A lot of it, we had some ARPA funds. The incident with the sexual assault of the trust from one of the trustees. So though it's maybe 3 things that she is working on. So yeah, she's diligently working on that, and working on that. Once we receive that report will give us ability to do some other things and move forward with directly pressing charges or filing a complaint or suing. What's crazy to me is even with the subpoenas that came from the FBI that requested information, they took it at liberty not even to respond to one of them.
May I make a suggestion? Get somebody independent. Does Lightfoot, by the way, have a background in criminal investigation or criminal law?
Yes, she's a former federal prosecutor.
I'd still seek to get somebody that is an active criminal investigator. You might look to see if you can find somebody that does Wall Street investigations where they get deeply into white collar crime.
You know, I'm going to say this, ladies, he's absolutely spot on. And I think that for you guys, you all have done a lot more than I think other sets of trustees would have done in this circumstance. I also note that, you know, Illinois is a place that's a very old place. And a lot of special folks used to run that area. And I'm not sure that they're gone. So, yeah, that's what, you know, I was going to say. And sometimes, you know, stuff trickles from the top down like that. So I would just say, based on what is happening, because to me, you guys have done almost more than what you would normally have done. Some people would have probably just given up and quit once you begin to see that there's something awry. And so it's almost like there are hands in play that at every turn that you guys take, there's something that blocks you. Do you sometimes feel that way, that no matter where you all go, you get you get a little block here or there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so that has to be very discouraging when you continue to hit these roadblocks and you do everything that you can. When I saw the FBI come in immediately after you all put Lori Lightfoot in place, it gave me a bit of I was sort of agile for a moment there. But then now to hear that even after the FBI has come in, there have been documents that have been sort of, oh no, we won't go to this, we won't go to that. I think that, if this individual is not careful, she could be the one taking the brunt end of maybe even a bigger picture. You never know. I mean, of course, I don't know anything. I'm just saying that it seems to me that, once you start walking this type of line or this type of tightrope, that you'd almost better be careful or certain that you don't go to the right or left, but that you keep on the path that, say, for example, there is a Papa Geppetto. I don't know that there is, but it almost appears that there is somebody moving some strings there. I'm going to go on ahead and allow, I do have a question that came from somebody, King BJ. He asked a question and I'm going to ask it for him, but I think you guys may have already answered it. He wanted to know, after you guys have noticed certain things that are happening, certain things that are going on with the misappropriation of funds, if you guys had put anything in place. But I believe you answered that, because you basically said, hey, yeah, we did. When we saw this amount was going out, we put a cap. It was a $1,500 cap. And then after the $1,500 cap, there were ways that were being circumvented to go around that cap and to do other things. How has this affected the ability for the village and its citizenry to be supported in any of the things that are needed? Because I do remember seeing some of the torn up fire hydrants, but I believe some of those have been replaced. I'm not sure about your roads. I'm not sure about, is there anything lacking in your city, despite the fact that you may be broke? You go ahead.
I guess that's the disheartening part for us. When we, because it was maybe 2.5 years ago and I was saying it in a joking manner at the time. So I didn't know it was absolutely true. And 2 and 3 years later, it was still stand correct. But when I said no one would save us, it started out as a joke after the recall when it didn't go through and we were saying, hey, we're crying for help. It was at one point, we even had the residents were inquiring, saying, okay, at this point, who's right, who's wrong, or what are we doing as a village? When we talk about us lacking things, we think about, or our demand for transparency is much bigger than anyone could imagine, because we live here, right? Because we live here, we know that some things makes no sense.
They're cutting out.
You'll find something gets interesting or critical, there seem to be peculiar malfunctions.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. He's right.
Go ahead. You cut out, ladies. We couldn't hear.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we cut out. Okay. I don't know how much you heard, but for the
16, 17 seconds worth of just cut out, you froze. We couldn't hear a thing.
Okay, so I'll go back.
Okay.
Because we live here, it becomes disheartening and sad when we see the lack of prioritizing with the spending. So it's one thing for us to continue to beg for the information, right? Say, hey, this is a lack of transparency. Our job as trustees, that's one of our main jobs, to manage the finances. So when we see that they are putting lights, Christmas lights on Sibley to decorate the town, and I know as a trustee, and I know that I've heard from other trustees that there are residents saying that they have been without lights for months. That becomes a problem, right? It becomes a real problem for myself because I know that is more of a priority and a safety concern for the residents. So how do we tell a resident, well, hey, because a resident called and they said, well, trustee, I was told when I called in to the village that the reason why we weren't able to get lights on our blocks is because the trustees didn't make the payment. And that becomes frustrating when we know that not only is this the furthest thing from the truth, but when we know that the real issue is that because they spent money getting lights put up on civilly, that's money that's not being spent towards the lights that the residents need on their blocks. Like, it's a real safety concern. When we hear her say that she wants us to spend money or allocate money for a swimming pool, and we have residents that have a swimming pool in their basement every time it floods. When we see that there are firefighters saying that they're not getting the compensation that they deserve, and we know that there are other employees who are getting 10 times the compensation that they're supposed to, right? So those are the things that becomes frustrating for us, because I feel like a lot of America is watching, and it's a lot of pressure when you have a situation like this and you're doing all that you can do, and every time you turn around, you're trying to make a change that will hopefully stop some of this nonsense. And time again, the administration continue. So all we can do is shed light on the issue, and that's what we're continuing to do.
May I make another suggestion?
Sure.
The things that you're saying, see if you can get some citizens to go together, to go in with each other and rent some billboards and put this up in strategic locations on the main thoroughfares of the township. So her wrongdoing or the allegations are up there for everybody to look at. I have a sneaking suspicion that she will quickly exceed her authority and try to get them snatched down. And she will take retaliatory action against the billboard companies or the people that own the billboard spaces, which enlist more people in your cause. One other thing about the Lightfoot situation, an observation down here in the south of the country is if the chicken coop is getting robbed, you don't bring in the fox to look into it. You don't bring in the coyote. You bring in a shepherd, or you bring in the collie to take a look. So word up on that.
In tandem with that, what I want to do is just segue immediately to one of the Dolton meetings where Lori Lightfoot was involved, and how she was not able to speak, how they cut the sound. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. This is the Dolton meeting with Tiffany Henyard. Lori Lightfoot turns into chaos. And this is not something that is uncommon lately. You all have had more chaos at your meetings than I have ever seen, but here we go.
Also breaking tonight, one of the most chaotic meetings in Dolton that we've seen yet. Police had to stop it from getting physical.
Let's get right to political reporter Paris Schutz and the showdown between Lori Lightfoot and Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Paris.
Dawn and Scott, that showdown is continuing outside of Dolton Village Hall. Trustees voted 4-2 to override Mayor Henyard's veto and reinstate Mayor Lori Lightfoot's investigation into Henyard's spending into that 2023 trip to Las Vegas. And as you mentioned, soon after that vote, things just broke down into utter chaos. Multiple sides shouting obscenities at each other. Cops had to step in and break it up. This is right after Henyard and her allies tried to block Lightfoot from getting up and making some brief remarks. Eventually, Lightfoot got her mic turned on, and here's a little bit of what she had to say.
Thank you. What I will say is that it's an honor to be working on behalf of the residents of Dolton. We are not arresting one another.
You was once a mayor too. You should not even be disrespectful like that.
That's sad.
Clear the room. Clear the room. Clear the room, guys. This means
So 2 hours of absolute contention here. Lots of residents voicing their concerns. Earlier today, Mayor Henyard had the block in front of Village Hall cordoned off, making it very difficult for folks to get here, especially if you were senior or disabled. So Lightfoot's investigation, at least according to trustees, is back on now. It's going to focus into Henyard's spending of village resources, as well as that 2023 trip to Las Vegas. And Henyard doesn't believe the investigation is legal. Now, residents lined up hours before the meeting. They got in, they packed the village hall, and they let their feelings about Mayor Henyard be known.
You're not going to understand until they put those cuffs on you. You're not going to understand it. You don't care. But baby, they on to you.
It is a shame that we, the public, can't ask you anything about the BMWs, the Range Rovers, all of that. It's like you're keeping all of that hidden from the taxpayers, and we pay for those.
You guys are following fiction, a made-up story. It is a smear campaign going on right now.
So as you can see right outside Dolton Village Hall here on MLK Drive in the village of Dolton, residents still fuming, still voicing their concerns to police officers. Police officers had to keep the peace as the meeting erupted into chaos. But the news out of this meeting, trustees vote 4-2 against Mayor Henyard. They reinstate Lightfoot's investigation into things that the FBI is also probing right now. A lot of things happening here in Dolton, and Dawn and Scott will continue to follow it in the days to come. But now we go back to you.
So my question is does this work at all? Having them step in, having the FBI step in, has it, of course you guys aren't getting any feedback as yet, but what do you guys think will happen as a collective when you all put these things in place and put Lightfoot in place? And now obviously the FBI has nothing to do with you, but of course it's just what the turn of events are. What do you expect to happen?
So of course everybody knows that the FBI takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
What we do know that is in November, a grand jury had convened.
Mm-hmm.
So that in itself is positive to say that even though these 3.5 years that we've been fighting, because sometimes it takes longer and out of office, they see that there's an issue. A concern with the village administrator, which is, I think plays a key part in this.
That's Freeman, right?
That is correct.
I have his bankruptcy pulled up here. Wow.
Yeah, plays a key part in this because as of November, then he filed the bankruptcy in January, meaning that he had already been in front of the grand jury to be indicted in April. Put it together, make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And you would then, on your bankruptcy, leave out something that was so pertinent is to you work for the village of Dalton when you're on TV,
national television,
every month. I would say that we want it to happen as soon as possible, something to happen, because we see that the community is bleeding. And I said it before: when you cut and you bleed, eventually you die. I mean, if there's no help, you bleed to death. And right now we're at a point where we're spending millions of dollars in overtime in police. But we can't.
I saw that one officer literally got paid $13,000 for 1 week.
2 weeks. It was
allegedly 2 weeks.
Yeah, it wasn't alleged. It was 2 week pay. It wasn't alleged at all. It was.
Try to be.
We have exempt police officers that's getting overtime, which they've been out of the union for over a year and still getting it because they're on her detail, getting $10,000 checks every 2 weeks. So indirectly, they are draining the community. And of course, they don't live here. So they take their money and go back to wherever they're going. What we want the FBI to do is step in to stop it. We've even put in ordinance to move forward with the state to put us into receivership. Take us out, put it in receivership so y'all can control the finances. But we have to put something in place to stop her. Nobody is stopping her. Nobody, because if you're the mayor and you go to someone, have a meeting and enter into a contract with her, you're entering into a contract with her. You're not going through the proper protocols or enter into the contract with the Village of Dalton, as there should be RFPs and things of once it's a certain amount. So even if you say, well, it's not $50,000 or it's not $25,000, if it's one project and you're paying them $5,000 a month, it has exceeded the project amount and it should have went to RFP. So we have to, I mean, at this point, it's a lot of media attention, which that's good because it's putting pressure on it. But she doesn't care about that. You would think that if the FBI gave you subpoenas, you would humble yourself. She don't know nothing about humbling herself.
You know what? She's pathological, seriously. And again, money laundering suggests itself as an allegation that might have some merit. She is acting like she is secure in a sense of being protected.
Like she knows something we don't, almost,
well,
in my opinion.
I mean, it's not so much something that you don't, because you probably suspect it, but she thinks she has this aura of invincibility because of her backers. You're talking about stuff, not saying it's here, but the allegation would be that when you see what you're seeing here, almost invariably there is massive corruption going on. And this is a point where somebody has been focusing on things that say, we've been getting a great advantage, but perhaps it's gotten a little bit out of hand. So either rein it in, or if you don't rein it in, somebody might, as is typical, have a strange accident. And not you ladies, but the mayor becomes a liability to the people that are sponsoring her. And they have some very draconian ways of eliminating these liabilities. So one of the speakers said, wait till they put the handcuffs on you. That's almost inevitable, because this kind of thing suggests a strong need to make somebody an example. And this arrogance is astonishing. She's not even trying to deflect anything. She's saying, so what? Do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is absolutely correct. I was going over some of the lawsuits that you guys have, and there are several. There are more lawsuits that you guys have right now that I've never seen. And I've been a human resources director for some pretty large companies. We were sued on several different occasions, but this is by far the most lawsuit. I've never seen this. This is absolutely amazing to me. You all have a gentleman who who's a police officer who observed, in his opinion, another officer doing something illegal as it relates to writing bogus tickets. And that ended up being this really big thing where he actually, felt like he couldn't trust whomever was there. So he went outside at the state level and he made an anonymous complaint. And then that individual was retaliated against. You got people who were put in sergeant's positions, according to some of the documentation that I've been able to glean offline that was public for my fingers. I didn't use any of my investigative team or anything like that to find them. I literally was able to find them myself. You guys have lawsuits from people who have been made sergeants or overlooked for sergeants' positions, and you guys didn't even vote these individuals in with their promotions. So there are people being put in place with positions in promotions that letter A, according to what is able to be seen online, were not eligible to be promoted to the position that they inevitably received. And B, their test scores did not even bring them into the position of being sergeant. These individuals have now been converted, according to the lawsuit that I was able to read as an example of my point, to sergeants. And you all did not promote these people. Is it my understanding that the board, they are the individuals who are supposed to promote or examine and vote? Is that correct?
Yes. So it should go in front of the Police and Fire Commission first. which we don't even have an operable police and fire commission. Once it goes, there is a list. The list should stay active and available for the public to see for 2 years. There was an original list that was out that was put up, and you are correct by what the allegations have been about people being promoted that was not. When they got a win that we knew that people were being promoted and did not have the accurate test scoring, they went in front of one of the people that were on the police and fire commission and had him change the numbers. Just call it how you see it. So yes, there is a lot of unethical things that
they were changed to 100. Some of these people had very low scores, and they miraculously got hundreds out of hundreds. And then later, according to what is public record, they were promoted without the board or the trustees stepping in and voting. So these are things that's been happening for some time. I mean, some of the lawsuits that I have read are amazing, Judge. They are unbelievable. You even had a young lady who was arrested, and listen, this is what made me, one of my assistants and I were on the phone this morning, and I was just losing it when I got to a point where I found out that somebody on FMLA was fired, was literally fired while on FMLA. And an individual, the young lady that we just saw, was taking flyers off of her vehicle, and flyers that had allegedly fallen. And I say allegedly because I wasn't there, but I'm going by what I see in the lawsuit. She went and she took some flyers that were promoting some type of thing for the seated mayor. And when she took those flyers off of her vehicle, and then others asked her, she'd take them off of theirs too while she's at it and picked some off the ground. This young lady goes back into the building where there was where there was a meeting going on. She threw them in the trash can, and she was arrested because the seated mayor had the police arrest her for removing the flyers. But the flyers were not made by a campaign or anything like that. It was just a general company that was not registered with the state or anything like that for doing campaign information. It was just some of her friends that had printed these up, according to the complaint.
Well, even still,
thrown in jail. Go ahead, sir.
Still, I see something on my car windshield. I can't throw it away. Or somebody says, hey, while you're doing it, take this and off of my car and throw it away too. So that becomes criminal. See, that's abuse of process.
That's abuse of power.
May I ask this question? Has the Board of Trustees filed any action against this woman?
Yes, we had several lawsuits. In total, it's been 9 lawsuits, but they've been for multiple things. We even had to go to court to try to get financial documents. It seems like the judicial
system, not the financial documents to get that, just a petition for a mandamus to get her to follow the law or be removed.
Yes.
Pause.
Yes.
They've gone to the state agencies to say, this is just not right. This is not following the law, and under our obligation, fiduciary responsibility, etc., to the people, we are filing a lawsuit saying this woman has not complied with the law. She must be removed or held accountable for damages to the
Yes,
people.
we filed that in 2022.
So
we've been
happened?
doing this for 3 years. It was thrown out in overtime. Well, I will have to go back and look at the documentation, or we can bring it up. But we have exhausted, and I'll say this so candidly, we have exhausted so many different ways and resources. And like y'all saying, whoever she's protected by, they making sure that our hands are tied as much as any way we go, we're being stopped. And the abuse of power makes it even harder because she uses the police department as a tool of retaliation against the citizens and the residents, which makes them not even want to either be a part or say anything or speak out because they're in fear of retaliation. This has become a gang. This is a whole gang. The village of Dalton has become a gang, mob action. And if you're not willing to stand up and just constantly, people are just in the house like, I don't want to be bothered with that lady. I don't want nobody giving me no ticket for my house. I don't want nobody giving me grass. And like Trustee Norwood said, even in reference to prioritizing stuff, the most of the money we don't have. So all of these people, once we do find out our finances, we're probably going to have way more lawsuits because they're illegal contracts or illegal agreements that's been had. But she said, and I'm going to say this again because I said it on another platform, theft of property. We had property on Greenwood without board approval. She has spent $1.3 million on a skating rink that was not approved. You stole the property from the village. That's theft of property. I don't care how you look at it.
Sicher, Frau Führer, das ist wunderbar, ja?
He's talking in tongues.
It's wonderful. Yes. The Fjord. She's Fjord. Yeah. She's the head.
Germany, 1934.
Yeah.
Sicher, Frau Führer. Ja, das ist wunderbar. Ah.
Yes, she is.
She's
Yes,
lost her
she
bloody
is.
mind.
That's what she thinks.
Collapsed into fascism, using the police agency for political and social intimidation. That's a crime, by the way.
The whole entire thing stinks to high heaven. And like I said earlier, Judge, there are so many lawsuits that are absolutely unbelievable. The impunity with which she behaves in going after people, and like you shared, dealing with the police department to do these things. There was a young lady, and Judge, you'll have to apprise me as to whether or not this is something that can be done, but according to what I've seen, there was a woman who passed away there in the city she was at a drive-through, and there was an altercation between she and the people at the drive-through. She took out a pipe out of her car and started tapping on the window with the people. The police were called, and this woman was killed. Allegedly, the tapes that were set out for media only showed a portion of it, and according to what was stated, they were not able to see all of the tapes. According to the parents, these tapes from the police body cam were edited. So in other words, they only showed some of the information, according to the family, some of the information, and that they've demanded that all of it be shown. However, here's the deal. According to what has been seen publicly, these police are being used as the mayor's battering ram. Anything that she needs done, they do it. And this stinks of a criminal
conspiracy.
Yes, this to me is the very definition of RICO. The whole entire kit and caboodle. From the lady's daughter being murdered there and run. She actually pushed on the gas to get out of there when one of the cops jumped in and punched her, according to the mom. And I saw the videos. I saw it myself with my own eyes. She ran away, trying to get away. It was a very young lady, and she was afraid. So they jumped. One of the police allegedly jumped in the vehicle. And I say allegedly because even though you see it, we are only able to see a portion of the video. This young lady ended up succumbing to her wounds from the police officer shooting her. But the biggest point that I want to make is, instead of coming out saying, we are so sorry, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that all the truth is brought to light, no matter if it's our officers or not. That was not said or done. What was done was, you know what, we're sorry for the loss. That particular police officer now works in Florida, to my knowledge. The chief at that time is now in Florida. He's no longer with them. But the point is, I never saw anything with her coming out saying, we're going to do everything that we need to do to get to the bottom of it. She may have. I just haven't been able to find it. It's this type of personality. Go ahead.
That's what we call frou-frou. That doesn't get directly to the issue. It's abuse of authority.
Mm-hmm.
See, I have a sneaking suspicion that a lot of what she does, there is no justification under law for her doing, or no authorization for her to do. And somebody mentioned this, the BMWs and the fancy cars and such like that have been acquired for her use. That's kind of strange in a municipality that's damn near bankrupt.
I think she's on something.
Anyway, you might try to get a justification. You might try another kind of lawsuit, just suing her to recover the funds, and she didn't go through the process. Obviously, the vehicle's more than $15,000, $100-some thousand, $200,000. Did she seek authorization from the Board of Trustees for that expenditure? And if not, sue her personally for misappropriation of public funds.
And while you're at it, try getting her for this one. Here, we're going to put this up because you, Judge, mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to play this specifically for you. So this is something that needs to be addressed, which I'm sure you already have tried. Let's go.
We can't hear it.
Can't hear it.
Okay.
Why you steady moving on?
Is in Markham with more on that story.
You have been led astray. You have been bamboozled. You have been fooled.
Dalton, not the only community concerned about self-titled super mayor Tiffany Henyard.
And if she speaks out loud one more time, you remove her.
The mayor of Markham questioning her decisions and her leadership. Henyard has dual roles, mayor and Thornton Township supervisor.
I don't want you guys to comment on this because you had nothing to do with
government here, and I don't see that happening in Thornton Township. I don't see it happening in Dolton either.
17 communities make up Thornton Township, representing more than 158,000 people. And this township, also a taxing body. Right now, the township is without a budget. It was to be approved May 31st, but was tabled.
That budget needs to be looked into much deeper.
Aldermen say they are being inundated with calls from taxpayers.
I hear it every day. There is no transparency within our township.
Henyard is at the center of a wide-ranging federal investigation and a number of lawsuits.
At some point, there needs to be some oversight, and someone has to get to the bottom of what and why these things are happening.
Questions are also being raised about Henyard using taxpayer dollars for personal expenses, including her makeup artist. This itemized payroll sheet for the township from May of last year lists Brandon Moman as an administrative assistant. But when we reached out to him, he told us he's Henyard's makeup artist. Chris Gonzalez is a Thornton Township trustee.
Just, once again, a long series, unfortunately, of things that just seem to be done incorrectly or possibly illegally.
We reached out to Henyard's administration for comment, but didn't hear back. Today, Governor Pritzker shared his thoughts on Tiffany Henyard and whether the state should step in.
There is an investigation that's been called for, and now I know there was a veto that was overridden that will now allow that investigation to go forward.
I'm going to go ahead and cut that portion off, but here's what I wanted to say about that, about the whole thing. Here's what I want to know. I would love to find out how much land is there and if there are any immigrant or migrant buildings being built there. Do you guys have any new construction going on that you all don't know about, or anywhere in the township? Is there any new construction? No? Okay. Let me tell you what I think. This is what I think, just looking at it the way that I do with the seer's eye. I believe that you guys may have a lot of land there, or something's going on there where people are able to get their money's worth by coming in right now, lining somebody's pockets, and then just going to go ahead and build up whatever they want. And I'm going to say that. I could be off, I could be wrong, but I'm just telling you what my gut feels. And in tandem with that, I do believe that it's the pay to play. I believe that somebody playing and somebody paying, somebody playing and somebody paying. And I just really feel like when I look at, not that he's in you all's back, in your city, but when I look at the Gonzalez gentleman from over there, where Zuccarelli position was made available, he's part and parcel of the reason why she's even in that position. He's part and parcel of the reason why she's the supervisor. And this is, again, from an outsider looking in. I don't know if I'm accurate or not. I just feel like it was just too much of a convenience that, you know, at old dark 30, there she was, and there he was to utilize her name to become the supervisor, as opposed to letting it go before the people and letting them vote for who they wanted to become, you know, Zuccarelli's successor. So I think that there's a lot
true. That's absolutely true, because he had a contract with the village of Dolton. So that people don't tell all of the story. They tell that's absolutely true. He had a contract with the village of Dalton, so he did make it his business to do it because he was benefiting from it. So
I didn't know that.
So of course he has now turned when he sees things are going on. But yes, he's benefiting, and that is the problem, that people that are benefiting directly and aligning their pockets, they turn the blind eye not to all of this corruption that's going on, and that is the biggest problem that we're having out here.
So to me, it just seems like part of what's going on in America as a whole, viewers and ladies and gentlemen that are in the chat, what it appears to me that in the United States as a whole is that we have a lot of stuff where people are, and I'm not going to bite my tongue. I'm almost 60 years old. I'm going to say what I got to say. Here it is. Okay. And this is not from the young ladies. This is not for Judge. This is me saying this. Okay. The way that I see it right now is America is on a downward trajectory. And as it goes down, everybody who got a pocket that's open with a hand who can grab is grabbing everything they can grab. They're grabbing everything that they can grab within their purview. They're sticking it in their pockets as America goes down. Now, what I'll tell everybody that's in the chat and that's going to be watching along, whether it's in the replay or not, is if you have a local city that you are involved in or you're not involved in. If you're not involved in it, you need to get involved in it. You need to deal with who you guys are voting in, and you need to check their background. Okay. If you see somebody that was arrested for X, Y, or Z, and I don't care to coin a phrase if it was stealing a penny candy, you need to make sure that that person is not put in place. That's the first thing. And the second thing is don't worry about the federal elections. If in your city there is corruption that could be that could be the undoing of your very town. Okay, get it together. Look at the people that you guys are voting in. Deal with their backgrounds. Find out who they're affiliated with. Find out who sponsors them, and then look at the sponsors. Find out who sponsored the sponsor. Okay, are these people from this town? Because in my personal impression, I don't believe this girl is from this town. Again, this is just a little old lady. Okay, all right, down here, down south. I don't believe this girl is from this place. That's exactly what I feel. I believe she was a transplant, just like a whole lot of other. Ossoff was a transplant down there in Georgia when I was living in Georgia. I believe this is something that is orchestrated. And if she don't play the game right, baby, I believe she's going to be the one going ta-ta, bye-bye, a clink-clink, double-breasted bracelets. Go ahead. I'll let whomever needs to speak, because I'm about to get myself in some stuff, but I'm used to that.
No, you're fine. I know Trustee Belcher, she actually has to go, so we're going to kind of wait for our part 2, right?
Yes. We talked about the part 2. Yes.
Now I do have one thing to add about part 2, but
let me give you the screen. Go ahead.
I ultimately want to say that I know that we've been talking a lot about the chaos that we're enduring at the moment, and we all know the saying, this too shall pass, right? So I want to just remind, even for the residents of Dalton, because we all live here, this is our town. So even with what's going on, when you hear people talking about where you live, you're like, wait, let's make it clear that our town is worth saving. Our residents deserve the very best. And even though we've been through a lot these last few years, one thing that I can say about our town is that we learned that we're better together, right? So even with how this all happened and all of the things that's transpiring, what we've gained from this is trustees. We've gained sister and brotherhood, right? Because once upon a time, I didn't know Trustee Belcher. So we have had some very positive things that have taken place through all of this. And I want to make sure that that is put out there also. I want to make it clear that even though these last 3 years we've been going through chaos, there's been a lot of great things coming out of this town. We have our initiative that we've been doing for the last few years. We actually have a garage sale. You can tell them about that, Trustee Belcher, this Saturday.
So we have a community garage sale. It is June 29th. Which is Saturday coming up from 10 to 2. And what we're doing is we try to make sure that we are do intergovernmental agreements with the park, with the library, because we all should be working together as governmental and elected officials. And we want to make sure that the community, and like Trustee Norwood said, the community is coming together. So through this all, it's been positive. So if anyone is interested, those that are watching, we are having a community garage sale. Just clean out your house, make you some money. There's a lot of different, we do Tea with the Trustees, which is every second Saturday of the month, because people that come to the meetings realize that they can't get any of their questions answered. So we make it our business that when they do come to Tea with the Trustees, if there's something that we could answer or expound on or try to get them some help or the resources, we provide that information. So as she said, it's bad. It's definitely bad in the governmental eye, but as a community, it's making us stronger. It's making us stronger, and it's making people that haven't even never thought about politics before looking at us like, okay, I see what's going on, and they're getting involved. And we need that in the African American community, because most of us, until it happens to us directly, we don't get involved. And that's
I agree. I agree. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Is this mayor elected?
Yes.
Did it ever dawn on anybody it doesn't make sense for this type of person to be reelected?
Absolutely. We have February of 2025.
Wait, I'm going someplace else. Consider that she may not have been elected, that there's fraud in the process. That's been occurring all over the country in spite of the denials. You've got somebody in place who is facilitating a lot of money, and I think, host, ma'am, you have touched on something. There's a lot of money to be made by putting up installations to house illegals who are brought into unsuspecting communities, and somebody may be thinking about the enormous amount of money. Somebody's probably telling her to back off a little bit because it's getting a little weird, but they don't care because accidents happen. But maybe she's not really been elected.
Well, I know.
I'm going to say this. I'm not sure how this all took place, right? But what I can say is you're absolutely right in regards when you say that we want to pay more attention to our voting, right? So for all the Dalton residents, election time is next year, February of 2025. So although we've gotten to a point where we feel as if this is coming to an end, we will need all of the residents in Dolton to assist us with making this possible. We are in the midst of having a trunk party initiative. So if we have any Dalton residents out there, we do have a trunk party initiative where if there are any high school students that have graduated and they are having a trunk party this summer, getting ready to leave for school, we are supporting them. We want them to know that at the end of the day, they have an entire village behind them, because it takes a village. So for non-Dalton residents, even, I know the people are always asking, how can they help? How can they help? If you all could follow our Dalton Trustees page on YouTube to see how you can assist. You can go to, I have my Facebook page, Trustee-elect, I have to fix it, Brittany Norwood. You can always support us via the Trunk Party Initiative. Also, my number is 708-968-4297. And my email address is bnorwood@vod.dalton.org. So through it all, and since we've all come together worldwide, right? Because it didn't just make us better as a community, it made us better worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
Any help, any love, we do appreciate all the love. We've received a lot of emails, we receive a lot of phone calls. We thank everyone. And just know, Dalton residents, that we are better together. We're going to get through this. We only have until February, and as long as we all stick together, we're going to have some new beginnings, great beginnings.
Oh, very good. I'm so appreciative of both of you ladies for joining Judge Joe and myself today. I do hope that you all will not be strangers, that anytime you have something you'd like to share, that you come on and you guys, let your voices be heard. Conversely, if the mayor is watching, or some of her cohorts or friends, or people on her team, and you want to come and you want to share and you want to talk, you're welcome to as well. But I do want everybody to know that I try to be as fair and balanced as I can. And if I don't have enough good stuff to pull about you, I'll pull what I find and I'll share that. You can share the rebuttal if you choose to, but I believe that that's fair and it's balanced. I do again want to thank everyone that you all brought with you today that have joined us. And I want to tell them as well not to be strangers. If you've not put that thumbs up, go ahead and thumbs up, thumbs down if you don't like it. And if you've not joined us as far as being a subscriber to any of the channels that you're joining us on today, you feel free to do that as well. Now, here's what I want to say to you ladies. As I shared with you in the very beginning, I will be interceding for you, for your families, to make sure that, that as many of us that can come together and to intercede and trust that this situation will clear itself up and just forthcome, that there will be transparency forthcoming. That's what I truly hope for you all. And I don't want you all to lose a moment's sleep about any of this. I want you to remember that what happened yesterday is done. You can't worry about tomorrow. The only thing you can deal with is right now, today, and walking in integrity to the best of your ability. Judge, do you have any closing remarks for the ladies before they leave?
Stay strong. Keep it up.
Thank you. Now, Judge, I do have.
Go ahead.
I do have something for you, Judge. So we've been looking at this BBQ sauce in the bag, and we've agreed that we're going to purchase some to support. But I was wondering if you could grill, Judge, because I heard you right there in Tennessee, Trustee Belcher and all the other trustees.
I've been working on this stuff for more than 40 years. We brought in a guy named Chef Damon, who is one of Beyonce's personal chefs, to clean it up so you can sell it in Whole Foods. But yeah, I can barbecue.
They say they want to take a road trip, Judge.
Well, we might.
Only fair, Judge. I thought we've been through.
We might deal with that. I can do the queue, no doubt about it. I mean, I used to not fire up unless I was going to do a whole case at a time. So, yeah, I've got recipes, and yeah, I can do this. One time at the LA Coliseum, they had men who cook, and I think we had 4,200 people came in through the booth, cooked enough for that. And one time with the show on the 1000th episode, there were 120 slabs of baby backs, 25 slabs of beef ribs, 10 briskets, and 15 shoulders, and 7 gallons of sauce that we went through. And contractors or vendors were trying to come in and swipe some of it. So yeah, it works. You'll like it, really.
You really will like it. I love it. As a matter of fact, I'm about to order some more. It is really good. And for those of you who don't know, there's a link down below in the description, or you can take it from this next commercial we're about to show. Ladies, again, thank you so very much. I appreciate both of you. Thank you for sharing the time and going over as you have. But again, we just want to thank you and say you're welcome to come anytime you choose. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm calling y'all back again.
Yes,
here we go with the commercial. Go ahead.
Any real estate needs, any life insurance needs on a personal note, call me.
Okay, calling y'all. All right, here we go. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. Okay, the ladies are leaving, and Judge, I just want to again thank you. I definitely want to have a conversation with you because I've been covering the Christina situation out there in Georgia, the judge that they just let go. She was already under investigation to a great degree.
She's doing the same thing this woman was doing.
Which one, Christine?
The mayor.
Oh, the mayor. Okay, you want me to let you see some of her stuff? Okay, hold on.
I'm on top of what the good judge was doing. The rookie, and she's too young to be a probate court judge. Her predecessor was getting paid about $120,000 a year. He had the position for decades. There was a fund that came through that allowed the judge to exercise control of it. It came from estates and wills and stuff and forfeitures to the state. And she decided to pay it to herself. So instead of the 120-some thousand salary, she was bringing in $280,000 or $90,000 a year, which is substantially more than the Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court was making. She misappropriated the funds to herself. There was something that the state Supreme Court jacked her up on, which was just truly evil. A woman, innocent woman, came in and she wanted to do a correction on some of her documents because she discovered for the first time in life what her real father's name was. She wanted that put down, and this judge didn't know how to deal with it, and she got frustrated. So what she did is she locked the woman up for 20 days, and the woman had done 2 days in jail when the husband got a habeas corpus petition evoked, and she got out, and the state Supreme Court disciplined her for that. And it just goes on and on with numerous complaints like this, where she thought she was outside of the law. So the latest thing that happened was she got in a fight outside of a nightclub, and instead of telling people who she was and maybe getting away with the story, hey, I'm a judge and I'm sworn to uphold the law, and they were in a fight, I was trying to break it up, she refused to tell them who she was, apparently to keep the state committee from finding out about the latest episode. She got arrested and charged, and then she got a lawyer to go in and start whining about its wife.
And he's a bozo. Her attorney is a very special case. I'm going to pull up the story you asked me to pull up, or more with her. This is the one my assistant and I were mulling over today, which was dealing with a contractor. It says suburban contractor named in the subpoena and ongoing Tiffany Henyard investigation. This cat is very, very unique.
Shines a spotlight on government activity. And this morning, we're taking a closer look at the subpoena and ongoing investigation into Dalton Mayor and Thornton Township Supervisor Tiffany Henyard. The Illinois Answers Project found that federal investigators are now seeking records from a suburban contractor after the village of Dalton paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars in no bid, no contract work in 2022. And here to talk more about this is Illinois Answers investigative reporter Casey Toner. Good morning, Casey. Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well.
Okay, so Casey, tell us a little bit about this subpoena and what you guys have found so far.
Well, we found that in 2022, at the urging of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the village of Dalton paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in no bid, no contract work to a West Suburban contractor named Oak Construction. And this is notable because Oak Construction is linked to multiple public corruption cases. And furthermore, Oak Construction is named in the subpoena in the ongoing federal investigation of Tiffany Henyard.
Oak Construction. Okay, so tell us a little bit more about what you have learned about this entity.
Okay, Oak Construction is based out of Summit, Illinois. And right now, the president of the organization had pleaded guilty to bribing a Cook County assessor's official in exchange for tax breaks. And his late father was also implicated in a bribery case involving former alderman Carrie Austin. And now, they're, at the center of this other investigation in the village of Dalton.
So in terms of the money that was spent, have you seen that? Was there work done by this company?
Now, I've seen photos of this work. I've seen testimonies from people involved in this work, saying that they liked what happened. But the issue is, without a contract, you don't know what the bill of goods is that you're buying. And furthermore, without bids, you can't compare that cost against what other people might have received for the same work.
Right. What type of work was this contractor supposed to do?
This was work for senior homeowners to replace their roofs and their windows. And we showed, after the Dalton Village Board didn't want to pay for this work because they never authorized it, the same contractor threatened to put liens on the homes of these senior homeowners.
Really? Okay. Wow. All right. So where do things stand right now in terms of the investigation into Mayor Henyard?
Our story for Illinois Answers noted that this investigation is intensifying. Federal subpoenas have been issued to the village of Dalton. They've been issued to Thornton Township. And furthermore, a member of Tiffany Henyard's inner circle, Keith Freeman, who's the village manager of Dalton and a paid senior advisor at the township, was indicted earlier this year for allegedly committing bankruptcy fraud. And this is a person who is tied very closely to the government and political affairs of Tiffany Henyard.
So, I mean, obviously a lot going on here. And I feel like every week we're learning more information, new information about, the situation in Thornton Township and in Dalton. So when you think about specifically this subpoena and the federal investigation, what happens next at this point?
A process like this can take a long time. It can take months, it can take years. But right now it looks like they're in the fact gathering stage. They're gathering information on the things that occurred under the watch of Tiffany Henyard. And I wouldn't be surprised if they've started doing interviews soon and, taking those next steps and putting those pieces together.
Okay. Casey Toner, thank you so much for coming in and talking about it. Obviously, we'll have you back as this continues. So thank you very much. Appreciate your time. And you can read more about the federal investigation into Tiffany Henyard at IllinoisAnswers.org. We're also posting a link on abc7chicago.com and our ABC7 Chicago News app. And we've got more news coming up right after the break.
Watch breaking news on YouTube. Subscribe to.
What I'm going to do right now is I am going to pull up an article that has everything to do with what we just saw. But would you like to make a comment on any of that? Can you still hear me, Brittany?
Okay.
Okay, there you go. There you go. Go ahead.
So overall, and I'm actually getting ready to head out because I have a meeting.
Yes.
You first.
But it's just a compilation of everything that we've been dealing with for the last 3 years. We understand that it isn't her way or no way, and nobody's coming to save us at the moment.
Final question before you leave, and I know the judge has a question as well. I want to ask you, is the Delgado Law Group still representing her?
To our knowledge, yes.
Okay, because I saw an article that stated they were leaving, but then I saw them again. So I didn't know, maybe she paid them, but they said that they weren't being paid. Go ahead, Judge. I'm going to go ahead and let Judge ask his question as well before you pull out, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. Suggestion. Drop a dime with IRS and suggested her income taxes need to be scrutinized, and that based on what you ladies are dealing with on the board of trustees, things are not adding up and you suspect misappropriation. Now, the interesting thing about it is, even if you robbed a bank, you owe IRS taxes on the profits you turn from robbing the bank. So the question becomes, did you report everything on all of your income accurately, or is there something else? That's usually somebody's Achilles heel. And especially since we talked about Al earlier, or brought his name up, and this is Illinois. Well, I'm talking about Al Capone. That's how they took him down.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
one observation, of course, it's only a thought, but over the years, I have come to associate the attitude that this individual displays with rank criminality accompanied by a narcissistic personality.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you, Judge. And thank you again, Brittany. I know you've got to leave now. We appreciate you for showing up with us. And again, anytime you have anything to share, or if I give you a call about something else, I hope you'll stop on by.
Thank you. We'll take that road. The next meeting we have, we'll be on the road, and we'll take some of that great barbecue sauce on the judge's barbecue.
Okay, I know that's right, girl. Maybe we can get you to move down here to the South and the Tennessee Valley so you can do your thing down here. We appreciate you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Food will be the way to do it. Have a good day, guys.
We got you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Judge, it looks like somebody wants some barbecue and some of your barbecue sauce. Now, that was one of the articles that I wanted to run for you, which was to show you how deeply entwined I feel. And as you could just see what we just watched on that news clip, that there are other entities in play. And obviously that's what's going on in America right now as a whole. And so being that these folks, the good trustees there in that city and the citizenry have been shouting to the rafters for help, their cries literally has reached worldwide proportions, as there are people who are watching this, who are making comments on different Facebook posts and things of that nature, all the way from different countries. So this, they have been doing, you know what I mean? They've been doing that rallying and crying out to try to get as much help as they can. And to be honest with you, there have been times that I've covered Tiffany, and I've honestly said that she is a beautiful young lady. I, as an older woman, want to see her get it together. I believe that she's trying the best that she can, and whatever opportunity she was given, she just ran with it. But I don't think she understood exactly what she was getting involved in when she took the stance that she's taking, and if she continues in the way that she's taking.
She reminds me of an arrogant young airhead.
You know, I tell
And
you,
the image she gives me, I wouldn't trust her 2 feet.
Not 2 feet.
Does not inspire confidence in being able to manage any place where I live.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like a party animal, sounds like it, has the motions, you know, the snake charm head thing, hand on hip.
Mm-hmm.
What are they trying to do pushing this on the public? This just isn't it. I don't believe she's really getting elected.
You know, I have to agree with you on that, Judge. I don't see it. And then for them to pull up the archaic law that stated that because it was in a township, they were not able to remove her via recall when the people unanimously voted. And then they did highlight, and by they, I mean the 3 judges who sat on this. I think it was 3 or 2 or 3. But these particular judges who sat on that said, well, listen, you know, according to what we see, it was, if it were a proper recall, these two topics should have been separated instead of being put together. That was one take.
I can see that.
You know, I can see that. And so I get it. And so what does it mean? And here's what it means to anybody who's dealing with anything legal. If you know the law, then you have to be able to follow it by the letter, because it can get thrown out. Not sure if they'll be able to do it again, but the appellate court did decide, no, not today. It wouldn't happen. But with that said, they do have to progressively, and you let me know what you think about this, some of the things that they should do between now and the time that they would re-vote her in. I believe, based on what you were sharing earlier, that the citizenry just needs to really stand together and say most unanimously, we do not want her. And if possible, they need to do some paper ballots. I don't know.
Well, maybe what needs to happen is for the citizenry to stand together and approach the sheriff's department and swear out a warrant for criminal malfeasance. You know,
absolutely. Absolutely.
Crime with holding an executive function for a municipality. You can do it officially or you can do it off the record. And people can come down and just say, we're the board of trustees. It's not adding up. Something is way wrong here and the evidence is being concealed. We think there needs to be a criminal investigation here for criminal wrongdoing.
Well, let me ask you, Judge, now that they already have the FBI in place dealing with this, would that be a totally different situation? And would they be able to get the
That's on
sheriff?
the federal level. This is not on the local level. And raise it most likely into something that would require some investigation for tax fraud or such thing, or misappropriation of federal funds. A thing that might be done is there's probably federal funding that's going into this municipality. And the way you'd get somebody on that is to see if the federal funding has been commingled. And usually the federal funding is attached to a proviso that it not be inappropriately commingled. And that's always a ways to get there. Another thing that you can do with the feds is if the FBI is on their game, which there are sometimes and sometimes not, what happens is making a false statement to a federal agency or a federal official is in fact a crime. And when I say that, it's in this context. If you told a state law enforcement agency, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, you lost your mind. Well, we've got you in here on investigating on a bank robbery. I don't know any damn thing about a bank robbery. You're cool on the state level, but the feds will bring you in. You're here under investigation for bank robbery, and we are interested in a robbery that took place on such and such date of April 17th of 2024. And you say, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Well, they got you right there on a federal felony, making a knowingly false statement, because they just told you what you were in there for, which is the bank robbery on April 24th. So you know what it is. So when you say, I don't know, they got you. I'd represent people and they'd have 16 counts on a federal indictment. We'd get them acquitted on 15. And on the 16th count, making a false statement, they'd be busted.
Well, I'm anxious to see how this thing ends up, but I think that you were absolutely onto something earlier when you said, it may not end up going to her side or her liking. And by her, I mean the seated mayor. Again, whenever I and everybody who watches the channel knows that when we see our community doing wrong, we want to be the one to do the correction. I don't want to see other people correcting us. I'd rather see us stand up and help to correct us. And I don't mind others doing it. I would just like to hear us in concert. If that's the case, I wouldn't want to stifle anybody's freedom to say what they want to say, but I just want to hear us stand up and say, hey, this is wrong. We need to make it right. You know what I mean?
Study body language.
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
Look at your footage and look at the mayor again in terms of body language, and you see what I mean. And
okay, let me pull something up with her.
All sorts of classic signals that she's lying. She's not telling the truth. I mean, it's wrong. Maybe she's an anomaly, but the body language is not trustworthy.
Okay, so let's look at that. I want to look at that. And here we are, some of her footage. I want to get her footage on. Everybody is covering her right now, and it's so sad because I don't know if she ever knew that this was ever going to happen. Here, let's get her on this one. This was one that's an old case, but there is a lot of what you're talking about in this, just as an example. So let's go on ahead and take a gander at this, and we will we'll all look at it collectively. Here you go. Let me go ahead and start this.
WGN Investigates has learned a suburban politician's charity has attracted the attention of the Illinois Attorney General after failing to file financial documents. We've reported on Tiffany Henyard before. She holds two elected positions, Dalton Mayor and Thornton Township Supervisor. She also prides herself on raising money for cancer patients.
But as investigative reporter Ben Bradley reports, she's now facing penalties for not reporting how she spent the money.
Tiffany Henyard collected $287,000 back in 2022 from her 2 elected positions. That's the same year she founded a charity in her name, a charity that has received considerable tax dollars but hasn't filed basic records with the Illinois Attorney General or the IRS that would show how cancer patients have actually benefited.
I want people to know that I'm caring.
Tiffany Henyard told me in November she cares. Apparently so much so, it's also the name of her charity. Check it out. The Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation posts videos highlighting walks and other events that prominently feature the politician proudly promoting her cancer charity.
I just want people to know that, hey, Tiffany Henyard Cares Foundation is here. We will help anybody in need.
She certainly may help some, but Henyard's charity has failed to file required financial statements showing income and expenses. WGN Investigates obtained this letter from December in which the Illinois Attorney General threatened civil penalties are imposed against persons who do not register with this office as required.
But there's no foundation in the state of Illinois moving like we move, and shaking, moving like we doing right things.
Henyard mixes her 2 taxpayer-funded jobs and charity work.
That's it.
That's Keith Freeman sitting next to her at a Dolton meeting where he's the village administrator. Freeman is also an advisor to Thornton Township, and he's the guy listed as the registered agent of Tiffany Henyard's foundation.
I think it's just about personal gain and trying to use it as more of a publicity type thing.
Chris Gonzalez is the last surviving critic of Henyard on the Thornton Township Board. He and other critics say public money has been used to fund Henyard's private charity. They say board members were asked to approve a $10,000 payment to the foundation in 2022, days before a much publicized cancer walk from Dalton to Springfield. Thornton Township credit card records show taxpayers then footed the bill for more than $10,000 in hotel rooms along the route.
I saw the video. Township vehicles being used, township employees being used. Once again, were they paid? Were they given comp time or things of that nature? So there's just, unfortunately, there's a long list. Hotel use, meals.
But I shouldn't have to sit up here and break all this down.
Henyard sometimes shouts down or shuts down questions about expenses while presiding over public meetings, as we learned in November. That's when we reported Thornton Township taxpayers spent thousands of dollars on a trip to Las Vegas, where a shopping center conference was underway. Henyard and her allies spent thousands on everything from steak dinners to hotels and what appeared to be first-class airfare.
I do not handle anything as relates to with credit cards. As you heard me speak today in my board meeting about, I do not handle that.
Some of those charges are for you, though.
No, sir.
You didn't go to Las Vegas? What is that?
No comment.
You don't know if you were in Las Vegas?
Of course I do.
Were you?
It's not paid by them.
Did you fly first class to Las Vegas?
Any other questions?
Actually, we have a lot more questions, but neither Tiffany Henyard nor her advisor, Keith Freeman, responded to our requests for comment. And the 2 governments they control have stopped releasing financial records requested by us under the Freedom of Information Act. The Illinois Attorney General plans to make another demand for information from Henyard's charity this week. If no records are produced, the AG can ask a court to remove the foundation's officers and issue a fine of up to $1,000. Ben Bradley, WGN Investigates.
Okay. Judge, we have a question for you when you're ready. Go ahead.
You notice she was doing this. When you move your head slightly, slowly, or rapidly, or slowly, it doesn't make any difference side to side. You're indicating that what you are saying is, in fact, a negative. In other words, she's saying one thing and she's often doing this. And then this kind of thing here means you're being very defensive. And what you're subconsciously doing is saying, go away, leave it. Because it is a liability. In other words, you're lying when you're saying what you're saying. So that's the body language. So she's often doing this. And do you think and she's doing that, and she's telling you she's lying by her body language. Now, what's body language? You and I are talking, And you notice my hands are going between me and you, or where I perceive you to be.
Correct.
Doing a welcoming gesture. I'm not
Mhm.
don't bother me type thing. And when you talk to somebody face to face, only 15% of what you are saying consists of the words you use. 35% of what you're saying consists of the tone of voice, and 50% or more consist of body language. Now, body language is strange, and you want to know the quickest illustration of it. Do you know people that claim they're not photogenic? I'm not photogenic. I don't want to take the picture. You know what's on? When the camera goes click, a body language message is being frozen. And the body language message that's being sent is not a good one. And the person even senses it and says, I'm not photogenic, because their body language is screwed. And that's what this narcissistic woman is doing. She is, I mean, it's classic.
It's classic.
And
It is.
Arrogance hooked up with it. It's almost pathological in what you're looking at. And every time she spoke in this, she's basically saying, I don't go to the toilet but twice a day, and she's doing this. And that means she's not going to the toilet twice a day. Something else is going on. I am not a crook. Used to do this. And yeah, I am. Subconsciously, I'm showing this message without realizing it. And she's doing it. Her body language is horrible. And you also find that this type frequently in public appearances tries to turn stuff into a dance routine. You buck dance with everything. The organ grinder's got the instrument going when he's turning the crank, and the monkey's on the silver chain and it dances around. So that's another symptom of an attempt to evade accurate or relevant political commentary by having everybody dance, so you can assume the motions of the dance subconsciously, so you avoid the communication aspect.
Wow, Judge. You have it on point. You really are on point. You know, there, as I shared while the trustees were here with us, there are several lawsuits that are out there. And there's one question from one of the folks that are there. One of the mods have pulled it up for you. And so with all the lawsuits, and then you've got all the people that are concerned, people who are citizens, people who are in adjacent townships, a lot of people are concerned. This young person asked this question, and it says, at Headlines with a Voice, Fly Judge, Voice-ite, I think it's what it says, Voice-ite Fly. Judge Joe, would crowdfunding be a good way for residents to raise money to buy a banner that opposes Henyard? This is to your statement earlier with regards to the billboards. They're asking, would crowdfunding be a good way for them to be able to do it? These are some of the
might under certain circumstances. I don't know under this particular circumstance, but see, the mayor's going to work to cut off your funding, and I would predict that she's going to do something about trying to misappropriate public or personal property without due process of law by seizing the billboard properties or having them destroyed or the offending posters taken down. So that would be a trap for her. You set somebody up. They want to be crooked. Do it better with a legal intent.
There you go, because you know they're going to bite anyway.
Yeah,
So-
well, it's kind of a reverse of entrapment, but you can't entrap because you're not a police agency.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So that's a good question then. Sandy or Ms. Tree, these are my mods. Are there any other questions that you guys have been able to glean from the comments? there's any other questions that you all would like to ask, please ask them. And so they'll go ahead and bring it to my attention. Yeah, I like how meetings get cut short. You know, Judge, that is another thing. I want to ask you a question as it relates to meetings in these different municipalities. There are laws that govern public meetings for cities and jurisdictions, correct?
Yes.
So basically what's been happening is they will have a meeting that's scheduled and then they won't let everybody in. And sometimes it has not been because it will be at capacity. It is because they just don't want to hear what some of the citizens have to say.
That's a growing trend to cut down debate. Our mayor here in Memphis fixed up the city account on Twitter/X so that you couldn't ask questions. Yeah, how about that one?
You know,
we found
I don't
out
get that.
Other thing, manipulation of the news. A local station, KWAM, KWAM, it's a conservative station. They discovered that for the last week, the mayor and the chief of police issued instructions to not report any sort of violent crime. So they reported 2 shootings, but it turns out there were quite a number of other shootings, including fatalities, that the police department was instructed not to disclose.
Whoa. What is going on? I mean, it's almost as if people think that there's another group of individuals watching us and they don't want to let them see, but it's us watching them. We're the ones that see all this corruption that's going on. And while we see all the corruption that's going on, we're saying something about it, but it's almost like, who are they trying to hide it from? We already see it.
It's Nazism. It's fascism.
Mm-hmm.
Some people call it communism, but it's really not. There's a totally different motivation behind that. See, fascism deals with an individual or group interest. Communism is supposed to be more universal, which is fascist methodologies used to promote, well, maybe it's the rainbow cult or something. Maybe it's somebody trying to rip off on the financial level. So it's all kinds of things that happen here. And the methodology is you engage in a serial series of efforts to mislead the public. So you keep saying it over and over and people think in terms of it. Now, at my age, having seen what was going on as an adult back in the 60s, I see a devolution in things that is culminated in something that makes what this mayor does to be very fruitful. You holler the key words racism, white supremacy down the sister girl, and everybody, well, I gotta support them, skin is kin and all of that, And a lot of things that are right out in the open and glaring are overlooked. So this is a lot of black people that are getting jacked over too. These are old black people who are getting these liens put on their property because of corruption. This is a lack of safety. This is public funds not being used to put, I guess it's not plant mulch, but it's that padding down so children don't fall and skin their knee when they're playing around a jungle gym or a playground. You can't put that in. You can't upgrade the stuff for the children to be uplifted by a better environment when they are taking places to play. No, because there are other little selfish things like her BMWs and fine automotive equipment that is totally out of the ordinary. Things like her flying first class, and instead of $300 or $250 for the airfare, the city pays out over $1,000 for a first class ticket. You get free drinks and beverages in first class. And she doesn't know, and she's going, what? And saying, I'm lying about it. So why are the people paying for that? You saw the $580 some for the meal ticket. I think it was $587 and you see the several $1,000s for upscale hotel suites, not hotel rooms. So they're down there partying, they're in the casinos, they're watching the shows, and what's that got to do with governance for the city?
Oh, Judge, you are bringing us some good questions. This, as you're talking, I'm beginning to think about certain things. You mentioned something with the elderly and the liens. Look at this story a little closer. I'm going to bring up the print because this is, go ahead.
Add this.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody comes in, seizes the elderly person's property, it gets acquired dirt cheap and then sold later or used. The hedge fund industry in Wall Street is buying up deeds, not mortgages that they're bundling, but they're bundling deeds, and they need a few good deeds on worthwhile properties, no matter how small or how large. And they're acquiring these things as leverage to fund projects which may or may not occur in the area. So there's a lot of money to be made here that's not obvious. And people get kickbacks. Okay, for example, here in Memphis, we have a situation where downtown development set a deal up where a major international hotel chain is getting $220 million from the city of Memphis to finance its downtown expansion. Why should the city of Memphis expand or finance a major international hotel? Well, they are advertising for the hotel that there's an 18.7% minority set aside. But the mayor campaigned trying to explain his support for it by saying there was only a 15% set aside, which means he got 3.7% of it, which works out at about $5.5 million went in his pocket personally. You see how that goes? It's
I do.
What's going on. You got people who are out there talking constituents about this oil pipeline they ran through North Memphis. And then when you go to follow the money, you found a bunch of them who are going out attacking it actually got tens of thousands of dollars from the oil, from the pipeline company. And what you wind up finding when you look at their votes on the subject, the votes have nothing to do with the rhetoric. You see, so
I do.
You can follow the money and see who's paying for who and what is getting done.
Well, I'm going to say this because as you were talking to me, it was ringing bells. And there's an article that is a two-parter. You mentioned the elderly and you mentioned liens. Let me add this to the stage and read a portion of this article. And then I'm going to click over to another article that stems from this that hits everything you just said. And it clarifies something that I thought earlier when I was saying, what about land and what's going on or whatever. Listen, it says here, this was based on what we just saw. At the urging of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the village of Dolton paid a West Suburban construction company linked to multiple corruption cases more than $200,000 in no bid, no contract work to replace senior homeowners' roofs and windows. Now, federal investigators are seeking records from Dolton officials concerning the construction project undertaken by Summit-based OAKK construction company owned by Boris Nitschkopf. His family ran a restaurant in town and his father once engaged in an apparent scheme. Now, here's the part that made those bells run. In an apparent scheme to attempt to clear hundreds of thousands of dollars in unpaid taxes from properties and families owned in the village. Here's the rub. Let me show you this. Because when I clicked that button earlier, while my assistant and I were working this morning, putting some other last minute stuff together, this is what popped up. It's a property shell game. And they're in Illinois. Okay, so it says suburban businessman is linked to Alderman Kerry Austin, and a federal investigation, didn't pay taxes on property for years and bought up $861,000 of their own tax debts for only $26,000. Now, I guess I'd have to register, but I'm not. Go ahead.
In other words,
Yeah.
there could be a tax lien on your property. You come in when there are not likely to be bidders there, and you owe $86,000, $106,000, $400,000 in taxes. It gets sold on a tax lien, and that satisfies your tax liability, but you buy the property for $36,000. So you got your property back. You took a very good bad situation and turned it into a very good one for you. You just cleaned up $800,000 worth of tax liability for 40-some thousand because you bought the property. It's still back with you now. You've reduced the value of the property, which reduces what you get taxed for in the future.
Well, this was Boris Nitschkopf, and he prides himself on the fortune that he's made since immigrating from Macedonia, the article reads. He pays off, get this, he pays off other people's unpaid Cook County property taxes through tax sales. Then he reaps the interest when the property owners repay him with interest, or if they don't, he takes over the properties. Nitschkopf, 77, has been known to tell how he discovered this arcane way of making a living when someone bought the taxes on his home and threatened to take it from him. Nitschkopf himself has let the taxes lapse on 7 South suburban properties he owned for years until they amassed $861,000 in overdue bills records examined by the Chicago Sun-Times show. It goes on to say, then, through a shell game involving 3 companies Nitschkopf and grandson owned, they bought those tax debts at a Cook County property tax scavenger sale, paying a fraction of what was owed for the right to eventually shift ownership from one of the family's businesses to another without having to pay back taxes. Grandson Connor Nitschkopf's company, 9C LLC, paid $5,650 for $734,428 of the taxes owed by his grandfather, Mako Properties Incorporated, on 5 of the 7 properties, which appears to be illegal under the state law. 9 LLC was formed by Boris Nitschkopf and his then 20-year-old grandson in 2014. The year before, they purchased Boris Nitschkopf tax debt for the pennies on the dollar. Connor Nitschkopf says on his LinkedIn page that he worked for Mako, buying and selling commercial properties and appealing their real estate taxes. Now listen, that was from 2014 to 2017. But as my mind is beginning to run, I notice how much this lady is really always stroking the elderly in that town. And as my gut begins to ring, I can't help but notice all these things that she does for them and how many times she props them up to give her praise. Could it be that this has something to do with it? Again, folks, I don't know. I'm simply reading.
How about this one? All of this money supposedly to deal with the roofing and stuff that the city's supposed to pay. The work never got done, but it's billed for. So what winds up happening is they get the money paid to them by the municipality, the pocket, and then it's not recorded appropriately. So as far as it goes, what happens is there is a material man's lien or a mechanic's lien or a repairman's lien or a contractor's on their property. So they get paid twice. They get to seize the property and have it sold in an auction. So they pay a scant amount of money for it, which reduces the taxable, the tax rate for the property, and they get paid by the municipality. A cutback goes back to the mayor, and they get enriched. So somebody like that is propping somebody up. Not saying these are there, but the
absolutely,
it smells like it.
Right. And it could be, we could be totally off on this. I'm just saying what I'm seeing doesn't sound like it's too far-fetched. According to this article, 9C LLC obviously was formed by this man's grandson in 2014. And then he went ahead and he took the debt. So it went on between 2014 and 17, the other paragraph states. And then it goes on to say that for the other two properties involved in the back tax shell game, Boris Nitschkopf used another company he owns, B. Hartman Group, to buy $126,583 owed by his other company by just paying $20,630. That also appears to have been done. Go ahead, sir.
Now, if somebody complained to IRS and turned in a report, it really is a tax shell game. And if the properties were the ones you were describing earlier that were controlled by the family and the contributors got the family out of tax liability, that becomes gain, and that in and of itself becomes taxable. So I'm sure they didn't pay taxes on that. Or maybe they didn't, but it's another thing. Remember, it's Illinois, and Al got taken down by Elliot Ness with tax evasion.
Tax evasion. Well, the article goes on to say that also appears to have been done in violation of the law that bars people from getting out of paying what they owe in property taxes by buying those debts at a bargain basement scavenger sales. And the grandfather and grandson bought the taxes after signing disclosure forms required by Cook County Treasurer's Office, which holds the tax sales, affirming that they had no financial interest in the properties, that they weren't an owner or a holder of a beneficial interest in or of the property when the taxes were sold or when they went unpaid. But just now, as I'm remembering something, the Cook County Treasurer was replaced. If I remember correctly, when she came in office, the Cook County Treasurer was replaced. Where is that article? I had an article here. I've cleared this out. But the Cook County, this individual was replaced with somebody else. I'm not sure if it ever went through, but from what I understand, that treasurer was moved. Or was that Thornton's Township's treasurer? More than likely, I believe it was Thornton Township's treasurer. I don't even want to dig into this any further. I'm going to finish this printed public article, but I don't want to dig anymore, because if I dig, or if my friend or my staff member, or we all start digging, it's not going to be nice. But anyway, it goes on to say that they weren't an owner or a holder of a beneficial interest in the property when the taxes were sold or they went unpaid. Quote, really, if you think about it, it's illegal, you see. Boris Nitschkopf acknowledges during an interview at his Summit office that's the home base for his family's many businesses. He continues with, we thought about it because the company is under different companies, different owners. It's not the owner deed, he says. In a way, it could be legal, but I just don't want to create problems for the boys and me. This is Mako. The company is listed right here. You see it. It's Nitschkopf's Summit office. It's a home-based business, and that's it right there. According to Google, there's the address here and whatnot. But the article concludes with, records show companies owned by Boris and Connor Nitschkopf went to court in 2017 seeking tax deeds on 3 of the properties owned by Boris Nitschkopf's other companies, a Harvey car wash that sits on 2 lots, and a vacant lot in Dolton that would have let them keep the land and the family without paying it back. Let me stop. I don't want to say but they dropped the Dalton case and to date have actively pursued others still pending cases because, according to Boris Nitschkopf, he was told by a lawyer, quote, it might open a can of worms for you and create problems, so pay the taxes. He says that he plans to take the attorney's advice and pay the back taxes, though only on one of the 7 properties a house in Dalton on which he owes $38,000 plus interest. So there is that. And we see that there's a lot of stuff. I'm not gonna go any further into it because I know how my spidey senses are, and they will just begin to start picking up all kinds of stuff, and I'll be on it. I'm already on it. I already know exactly what this is. I mean, it's already been revealed. I already see what's really going on there. And yeah, it's that part. So go ahead, Judge. You go ahead and say what you got to share.
Actually, I had to get back on. Somebody called and knocked me off.
I have to put my phone on do not disturb sometimes whenever I come on live like that. But if they keep calling, it still comes through because the phone thinks it's an emergency.
Yeah, that's what happened here.
Yeah.
It was Ricky, as a matter of fact.
Hey, Ricky. I hope she's inside here. I know we're getting ready to close out, and I would love to meet her one day in person and just hug her neck, because I love the fact that she supports you and really stands up and handles all this great stuff for you. And I think it was very wise of you to grab somebody with her know-how and her integrity to help you with everything you've got going on right now. As a matter of fact, Judge, what is going on right now before we close? Tell the people about what's going on.
Actually, she's my niece.
Mm-hmm.
So she's the grandmother, and she's got all kinds of attitude. I'd like to sick her on the mayor. And she knows most of the people in politics in Memphis. Known them well. She used to be Isaac Hayes' business manager years ago. So,
oh, wow.
She knows what's going on. She's quite a formidable character.
Oh, he's gone again. Okay, there he is. He's back. Yay. Okay, we got your back.
It's thundering out here. There's lightning going on.
Oh, then that means it'll be coming my way pretty soon then.
Where
that's
are
the case? I'm out. I'm still in the Tennessee Valley after covering this, and I don't know. I want everybody to know. Y'all already know where I am. I'm in Huntsville, baby. It's okay, cause see, I got angels camped around and about me and stuff.
You in Alabama,
Tennessee Valley,
Alabama, down there in Huntsville. Oh yes, indeed.
I'm loving every bit of it. You know, I was born down south. I was born in Mississippi and raised out west. Obviously, you know that, in California. But you know, I love being from the South and being in the South. I absolutely love it. So anyway, Judge, tell us what you've got going on, if there's anything you want the people to know about. Also, I'd like for you to extend another invitation to them to find where they can get these great meats and whatnot. Tell us what's new on the list.
Okay, we have a new edition, which is this Beyond Meat links. The stuff that's vegan but tastes like meat. It's pretty good. So you have the chicken links, the beef links, and the Beyond Meat links, and you get them raw or smoked. You get them hot or mild. We have the seasonings, powdered seasonings, which I use more than the sauce. Hot, mild. You have the sauce, hot, mild. We just expanded something new into affiliating with a winery, black, white, and red. And we also affiliate with a sister named Michelle Dukes, who has a distillery that produces a very, very smooth bourbon known as Poppies. Papi apostrophe S.
I want to try that.
Yeah, it's based on a moonshine recipe that her grandfather down in Mississippi developed. So the meat is packed by a black-owned meat packing plant in Compton, California, which is the only USDA certified black meat packing plant in California. And
wow.
It's sister that runs it. So Tiffany Haddish is one of our investors. And I'm going to have to get out of here because I'm looking at some people that I hired. I've had them and they're supposed to be doing the yard work.
Well, I'm going to let you go because I know I'm sitting up here burning up in this old Sunday go to meeting coat.
Period.
Period. But listen, Judge, I appreciate you. I care so much about you and everything you've got going on. We've constantly run the commercial. We're going to get some commercials from Ricky if she can give me anything that we could use as well to run as well. And so we want to support you in anything that we can. We appreciate you for stepping in. And I do want to have you back because I do want to talk about the young lady that you covered so eloquently from Georgia. And they're now asking, now that she's been released, they're now asking Fonnie Willis to step in and help. So I'll let you get to those guys you've got working there. And I just want to tell you again, thank you so very much. Folks, thank him for hanging out with us. You guys can put it there in the chat. He's got some stuff that he's got to do. But I just want to let you guys all know that you can go down below. I'm going to go ahead and run his commercial again, but please don't be a stranger. Go over there and purchase some of that. If you don't do anything but get one bottle and taste it, trust me, you're going to be mad at yourself if all you get is one bottle, because you definitely should get more. Thank you to everybody who showed up for us today so that we could hear these young ladies' voices, so that we could give our care and concern to them, because it's so important to let people know that when they're doing good, or at least trying to do well, that you trust their judgment and that you're there to support them and that you believe in them and what it is that they're doing. And that's exactly what you all did by showing up and showing out for them today. Please don't let this be the last time. If this is the first time you've been on any of my publications, whether it be the Lockhart Perspective, Headlines with a Voice, TLP, Headlines with a Voice, you're welcome to stop by anytime. But what you can do is also click the subscribe button. So that way, as soon as I go live, or if I publish any new content, you'll be the first to know. Share this out with as many of your friends as possible. Everything that we used today was covered under the Copyright Act. None of the work that was represented here is owned by the Felicia Lockhart Group, LLC, myself personally, or by the company or anyone that was here. All of the statements that were made by anyone who was a visitor are their own statements. They were not paid to be here. No one received anything. Even the commercials for Judge Joe are non-financed. I don't get a penny for it. I'm not backed financially by anyone. This is all I do every day, all day. If it gives me 2 cents, then that's what I earn. Nobody's given me anything for any of this today. It's important for me to say that because sometimes you just never know, right? And it's always good to avoid the very appearance of evil. I want to thank each and every one of you for hanging out with us today. And remember what we always say here on any Felicia Lockhart Group publications, and that is that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of the Most High. You guys take care of yourselves, take care of one another, and then I want you to remember, after you take care of you, you take care of my friend, because my friend is you. Hey everyone, it's me, Felicia, of the Lockhart Perspective and Headlines with a Voice. I want to tell you a little secret. This is what I used to do, because I don't do it anymore. I would go to the store, buy the barbecue sauce, pour it inside of a bowl, put a whole bunch of different spices, a dash of brown sugar, a dash of maple, and a dash of mustard, stir it all around, and everybody would be like, oh my gosh, this is the best, this is the best. But I was exhausted after all of that, and a lot of times I couldn't remember how many dashes of what I put in it. But I don't have to do that anymore, because now I just go to Judge Joe Brown's website and I order his 3-pack of bottled barbecue sauce. It is by far the best, and I do mean the best barbecue sauce I've ever eaten. And when you go to his website and you order his 3-pack, you'll see exactly what I mean. Head on over to jjbbbbq.com and order Judge Joe Brown's barbecue sauce. You'll be glad you did, and you're going to tell me about it. I know you will. To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you